So how's your day going, Sarah?
Hey, I cannot complain. It's another pretty day here in Atlanta. So I'm a happy camper. How about you?
It's going pretty good. I was just watching The Nest, and I wanted to know, was this done before the pandemic, or is this something that you had filmed after things started going into lockdown?
We squeaked this in right before the pandemic happened. I think we were finishing up at the beginning of March, I want to say, or the end of February, because I remember it was right over my birthday. So literally right before the world exploded.
Right. So then this has been in production for quite some time then. When did you initially get the role? Was it like something that you had auditioned for or something that somebody reached out to you with?
It was something I auditioned for. I think the year before we shot, actually, a couple months, maybe like 4 or 5 months before we actually started shooting, and something I self-taped for. And then they asked me to come up to Asheville to do a callback in person and then a chemistry read as well. Um, so it was a little bit of a process.
So you play Beth, which is the mom, and the actress who plays Maggie. Did you guys work a lot off camera to kind of get your guys' mother and daughter chemistry going, or is that something that you guys pretty much just handled as actresses?
We did spend a lot of time together, just kind of in between stuff and offsets. Um, to kind of get that relationship a little bit. And that was just kind of a nature, I think, of how we were all together in the house filming together, which was really nice. But I'd say I kind of did take on a little bit of a mom role. I was the one that had to keep her quiet when she needed to be quiet, and we'd go and have lunch together. And I was the one that she'd be like, oh, Sarah's doing the mom thing again. So I think she definitely started to see me kind of in that light a little bit, which was fun. We hung out a lot.
So did you work with anybody on this film prior to this and any other projects, or is this something where you were with a whole new team of creatives?
Yeah, it was a whole new team for me. I hadn't met any of them beforehand, which I guess I was one of the newbies kind of coming in because a lot of them know each other and have done films together in Asheville before. Um, so I was probably one of the newer ones. I think they know Jennifer. Jennifer and James have worked together before, the writer and the director. Drez, who played the counselor, I think has been there before. Patrick owns an acting studio and stuff up there. Murphy, who played my husband. So they all kind of knew each other a little bit already before they started.
So you're not in every scene. So I was curious if you got the script as far as everything that was going to happen, even with the characters that were in scenes that you weren't a part of, or is this something more where you were just familiar with your pieces and just what you had filmed?
I did get the whole script, and I usually always do read the whole script. I guess I'm an actor who likes to know everything about what's going on and kind of not only figure out what's going on for me and my character, but what maybe is kind of needed for the movie in general too, and the story that they're trying to tell, I think is really important. You're just a piece in that. Um, so yeah, I definitely looked at the whole thing going in.
Is this the first horror film that you've done?
Yeah, I've only done one other horror short before, so this was the first horror film I've done. And there were a lot of work. There you wouldn't think that, but it takes a whole lot of energy. I feel like the short I did especially was even more like the was more of a blood, guts, and gore kind of horror, where this isn't so much. But it just takes a ton more energy, I find, sometimes than some of the other stuff I've done, which is fun and a whole different kind of challenge, for sure. But yeah, this was the first feature I've done that's a horror.
Have you seen it since it was finished, or have you not seen the full film yet?
So I've been trying to watch it in bits and pieces. It's a little hard sometimes to watch yourself on screen, which is funny because on the day I don't mind, and I like sometimes looking at playback. And Aaron, our editor, was on set, kind of getting stuff together as we were filming. So every day I'd kind of come down the stairs and go and be like, "So what do you got for me today? Let me see what's happening." But now that it's all together, it's a little scarier to watch for me, I guess, as an actor. So I've seen most of it, and I've seen previous iterations of it. And we're supposed to kind of all get together and hopefully watch it as a group later this month. So I'm debating just holding out and maybe watching it then.
So I know that you had said like the short that you had done had more like blood and guts and stuff, but there was a
Yeah.
part towards the beginning of the nest where you got a lot of, uh, uh, let's say, blood-ish things poured on you. Can you tell me
You?
how?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about like kind of behind the scenes, like what is used for that and what actually was all over your face?
That's a great question. I maybe should have asked that before they threw that bucket on me. I couldn't tell you what was in it, but I trusted Shane, our makeup guy, or not Shane, but our special effects makeup team quite a bit. So I knew they weren't going to put anything gross on me. I have no idea what was in that, if I'm going to be honest. I knew what was in, like, towards the end of the movie, what I'm like eating. I knew what was in that, which was disgusting. It tasted really, really nasty. Um, but I have no idea what was in that goo. Maybe it's better if I don't know.
I was gonna say, so maybe it's better that they didn't tell you.
Maybe it's better. Maybe it's better.
So there's a lot of so I'm trying not to give any spoilers, but like so the bear, there's some interesting movements and stuff with the bear, which I imagine
Yeah.
weren't actually happening during the filming. Was that all done in post, or was there some kind of like um is there something in the bear that kind of made those movements go as you guys were acting?
They did a lot of that practically actually on set, which was really cool. And so yeah, they did have a couple of different shots that I think they did practically, especially with it kind of like, do I give away things? Should I talk about it? I don't know. But yeah, they definitely did some of it practically on set. And I think then some of the more subtle movements of like the stomach and stuff, I think were probably done after. But I'd say a majority of it, I think they shot practically.
This is
Yeah.
kind of a weird question, but towards the beginning when you guys went to the, I guess not towards the beginning, at the beginning when you guys were at the
Yeah.
yard sale,
Yeah.
I'm curious of like, did where did all the stuff come from to like fill out this yard sale? Because there's all these things in the background. There's all these tables, obviously
Yeah.
extras pretending to shop. But I'm curious of where all this stuff came from. Was it like a trip to the thrift store where you're like, okay, all this stuff will be cool, or do you not know that because that's all like behind the scenes prop stuff?
Think that, yeah, that was a lot of stuff behind the scenes. We had a really awesome set design scene, Christine Shane, who worked on that. And I know that they've worked together on a few things before, and I think they just did a ton of shopping for it. A ton of stuff from probably their own personal houses as well, is my guess. But I think a lot of it was just going to thrift stores and picking things up. I think Christy herself owns a really cool, it's like a bar slash store in Asheville where she sells like vintage stuff as well. And then they do shows and stuff there. So I think a few of the pieces she used might have been from her personal collection as well. But they did a pretty awesome job, especially there and then later in the house as we kind of move along and it gets kind of more and more kind of nasty in there. They did a lot of work to kind of set all that up.
Well, your character is obviously very prevalent on screen, but did you yourself do anything behind the cameras to kind of assist, wear multiple hats, or were you specifically just acting through this whole thing since it was before COVID hit and
Yeah.
you guys probably had a full team?
We did. Yeah. For this one, I mainly just acted. I didn't have to do anything else. Um, I do like to on other occasions. I've worked as casting director for a film that we have coming out. And as a script supervisor, I've just started a little bit too, which is really cool. I think that what the crew does is incredible, and being a part of that is amazing. I mean, they're the ones who are really keeping the whole thing running, right? And they work so hard. But yeah, for this one, I just got to concentrate on acting, which was nice because it was full days and it was a pretty short shoot window. I want to say we did that in, it was less than a month. It was like 2-3 weeks, I want to say, total. So our days were pretty full.
Was there a scene like anything specifically in mind that you can think of that you maybe took more takes or took a little bit more to nail down and get right rather than other scenes that were done in one shot or maybe two takes?
Mhm. Um, yeah, I want to say a kind of a big one was probably the one in the kitchen with Dee and Murphy. Um, that one was a little bit rough, like getting all of the angles and choreography and stuff down in there was a little bit hard in the space. So I think we did have to break that one up and do it a little bit, had a few more takes of that. Um, but surprisingly, I mean, look, on an indie film, you don't have that much time, do you? Like you gotta kind of get through it. So we didn't have a ton of takes on everything. Um, Maybe some of the ones with Maple, a little bit. We had a couple extra takes usually, because you're trying to catch moments and stuff from her as well. Although she was good, she had her stuff down as well. So she was right there with the rest of us. So there wasn't one in particular. That was the only one that I can kind of think of that I felt like took us a little bit to kind of figure out and work out.
So I know that you, when I was doing a little research, I think I saw that you're bilingual. I believe it's German and English, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Do,
yeah.
do you do any acting or have you done anything with speaking German, or do you strictly use English in your acting world?
I haven't had the opportunity yet to really use my German language. A little bit when we did Stargate Origins. I was able to kind of pepper in a little bit of German. It wasn't written into the script necessarily, but they would let us kind of use that. Mostly it's just been using the dialect. So I think for like Counterpart and Pretty Little Liars and for Stargate, all of those were German roles. Um, so I've been able to use just the dialect, not so much the language yet.
Is that something that you would be comfortable with, or do you feel like because you're used to acting and maybe taking acting classes in English that you kind of have a rhythm with that?
I think it'd be an awesome challenge. I think it would definitely take me a little extra prep just because you start to now I think in English, right? When we first moved here, you dream in German, you think in German. And I can definitely say it feels like it's switched at this point. So I think it would take a little extra prep, but it'd be an awesome challenge and something I'd definitely be into.
Was German your primary language and then you
It
learned
was,
English?
yeah. Yeah, I was born and raised there. My mom's German from Bremerhaven and my dad's American. So we lived there probably a total of like eight years maybe. And then moved here when we were a little bit younger and I did, middle school and high school and all of that here. So my writing is not so great. Didn't learn that in time, but me and my mom still speak German all the time.
That's cool. So once you got here, did you kind of get your acting? Well, did you feel like you got the bug to go into the entertainment industry after you came to this country? I know you were very young, or was that something that you were interested in even when you were living in Germany as a child?
No, it was not. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I went to school, Colorado State University, and majored in biology, actually. And I've been interested in performing. I've done like a couple of plays in high school and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed it. But my parents were pretty strict about wanting me to finish school, and that was something that was really important. And I loved working in the veterinary field as well. I'm a huge animal lover. But I was in my fifth year of college because I didn't get into veterinary school my fourth year. So I stayed for a fifth year. I was president of the pre-vet club. I was taking all these upper level science classes and I was like, I'm going to pad that resume. I'm going to get in next year. And I took an acting class for funsies to fill out my schedule and just fell head over heels. Auditioned for a college play, almost threw up at the audition. I was very nervous, but got in for that play. And then I failed my pharmacology class that year. I just like stopped caring about any of my classes, which was awful. Luckily, my professor was also the husband to one of my theater teachers. So he never actually said anything to me. I think he figured out what was going on, but it was just theater after that. I fell in love. And then after that year, I told my parents I wanted to move to LA, and just said, all right, well, I'm gonna give it a go, and we'll just see what happens. And I'm really happy I did. I'm happy I'm not a veterinarian.
Have you had any roles where you've been able to use your veterinary experience or your biology knowledge to kind of lend to the project, or is that something that you haven't dabbled in yet?
They don't make a lot of TV shows about veterinarians. So can't say that I've had the chance to do that quite yet. Um, no, I haven't really had a chance to yet. Maybe a little bit, like some medical terms here and there. I understand what I'm talking about, but it really hasn't come into play that much where they've needed my help necessarily with anything.
You mentioned Stargate twice. I think you had a pretty prevalent role in that. If I was looking on your IMDb, I think you were in quite a few bits of that.
Mhm.
When was that done? Because that's over now, correct? Your role in it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. That's over. They just did like a kind of a mini series, then they turned it into a feature. Oh gosh, you're really making me think here. When did we do that? That was a couple years ago. I want to say we did that probably 3, 4 years ago is my guess. Maybe about 3. It was right before I moved out of LA to Atlanta, when we finished that. But that was amazing. That was probably one of the first sets I've been on where, they kind of transformed the world a little bit. We got to see these really cool sets and do a little bit of stunt stuff, and the costuming and the makeup for some of the characters was incredible. So to see them kind of bring that world to life was really cool.
Well, is there a genre that you haven't been able to play in yet that you are interested in exploring? Because you've done a little bit in the Stargate stuff, so there's some science fiction type things, and then you have your um, obviously very horror type film, and you did that the short that you were talking about. You've done a little Pretty Little Liars, but is there anything that you haven't touched yet that you are really excited to try to get a chance to?
I would love to do a Western. Would love to do a Western. Yeah, that's kind of next on my list of something that I would really like to do. Um, I used to be an avid horseback rider, and I was like, come on, let me use those skills. But I think that would just be a ton of fun, to kind of live in that world a little bit. I remember when Westworld came out, I just thought that was the coolest thing. To be able to do something like that would be awesome. Um, and I wouldn't mind doing kind of another period piece. I've done a film that kind of lived in the 50s, which was really cool. And those costumes and stuff are really interesting. But just to get like down and dirty in a Western, that would be the thing.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's with your love for horses, you had horseback riding. Is that part of what led you into the
It's hard, I know.
veterinary field? Is that what led you into the veterinary field, or was it like you had more experience with animals because you were going there and then you learned how to ride horses from that?
Gosh, I guess I was really lucky. My mom was really into horseback riding. She did that when she was in Germany, and that was always kind of a dream of hers when we settled down in Colorado, is that she really wanted to have a horse again. So I got lucky because she wanted to have a horse. But I guess I always wanted to be a veterinarian just because we grew up around animals. I think the only time I've ever not had an animal in my life was my freshman year of college, because you're not allowed to have them in the dorms. But other than that, I've always been surrounded by them. So those things just kind of came together, I think.
It makes sense. Now, I always like to give people a short platform before I wrap up to make sure you have a chance to, mention anything about the film that we didn't touch on, or share your socials or any websites that you'd like listeners or readers to find you at.
Man. I don't know if I have too much to wrap up on. I hope everybody checks it out. I think especially for indie filmmakers, as audience members, I don't think we always know how much goes into anything, right? A short or movie. And a lot of people worked super hard on those things. And I just hope that people can appreciate some of those aspects when they watch the film and enjoy.